For those of you who might have just joined, my name is Yolanta Smolsky. I'm a co-founder of the Pet Industry Network, and I'm just thrilled to be able to bring these kinds of conversations live that are more than just a webinar, right? It is a live discussion for us to really dive into some of those hard questions and challenges that you're facing in your pet business right now, and for you to get those answers live in real time from an expert who's in the room. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up my slides for today, and then we're going to jump into the live discussion. All right. So, let's do it, everybody. Okay. So, what are you all here for? We're here to learn how to train staff for real competency through SOPs and muscle memory. We are being joined by Molzhon who's the founder and owner of Dog Handler Academy. And what brings everybody here together today is the Pet Industry Network. We're actually a group of fellow B2B providers, peers who have similar audiences or maybe crossover in services, but who can better support the wider pet industry by working together through this kind of collaborative effort. And we're so excited to be able to continue to bring this to you monthly, in addition to what we host annually, known as the Pin Growth Summit. At the end of today's session, I'm going to share a little bit more about that, but we do have some exciting announcements coming up, so make sure you stay to the end to learn more. And of course, we are here being brought together by Eve Molzhon, who's the founder and owner of Dog Handler Academy. I'm going to go ahead and let Eve share a little bit more, give a sneak peek into who she is, what kind of expertise she's going to be sharing with the room. So, Eve, you can take the stage for a moment here and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to say congratulate to all of you for joining in. I know running any sort of a pet industry business, taking time away to learn something new. I mean, it's hard some days. I can so relate to that. I was working in my pet business this morning. So I owned and founded Dog Handler Academy during COVID, but prior to that, I actually run two dog daycare and boarding facilities. One is a 15,000 square foot facility. We do daycare, boarding, training, and we also house unusual pets, cats, ferrets, parrots, and potbelly pigs. So I like all the species. And then my second location I built just after COVID, and I'm partnered on a third location in Rochester, Minnesota. Today we're kind of putting on my Dog Handler Academy hat. Dog Handler Academy is an online employee training platform. We are translated into English, French, Spanish, and German, and we have clients within 15 countries. Our goal is to help dog daycare, boarding, training, and shelter facilities to operate as safely as humanly possible while caring for animals. So that's the basis of us. What we have delved into is all aspects of being in the pet industry, from operations to design and layout. Safety is always number one and important. And I do a lot of consulting within the pet space at various locations throughout the globe.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You couldn't have said it better than me. You've been in this industry, what, you entered in 2013, right?
Yes.
And you've been growing your dog daycare, boarding businesses. You've, basically been finding ways to help fill that major gap in employee training by creating Dog Handler Academy and really honing in on how to help pet care businesses better train their staff more effectively. I mean, on top of having all these multiple dog focused businesses, you're also active in professional organizations, and you are one of our newest members of the Pet Industry Network. And you're very passionate, I can tell, about helping teams build that real competency and confidence and consistency. So, everybody, if you could just join me in the chat, please welcome Eve into the room. If you can throw some emojis out there or just some clapping hands. This is like an honor to be able to bring such an amazing expert with all this wealth of experience in the industry for this live conversation. So, yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it. Very
Oh,
nice.
of course, of course. We've got some emojis coming into the chat. It's so great to see. Awesome. Love the participation from you guys. And as if you've ever been in live sessions with me before, it's amazing when everyone can play full out, right? Be fully engaged. I know that in the background, behind the scenes, you're running a business, but the most value you're going to get out of this hour is if you can really tune in and take really good notes. You will get a replay at the end, but you don't want to miss a single insight. So make sure to playful out with us. All right. So before we dive in, I think it would be really great to engage everybody in a couple of questions because that way we can take a pulse check around the room to see where everybody is at in their business. So if you could kindly drop it in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5, right? 1 being not very confident, up to 5 being very confident. 3 is somewhere confident in the middle. How confident are you that your team can perform key procedures consistently without reminders, right? Your team knows exactly what to do consistently. Okay. So let's see what we've got in the room. And you can be honest. This is a place where you can tell us the truth. Don't worry. We're not going to tell the rest of your team. Let's see what numbers we're getting inside the chat. So we have a bunch of threes, right? A bunch
Yeah.
of fours, 3, 4. Okay. If you had to choose one, I usually say choose the lower one. That way there's more room for progress and growth. Okay. We've got a 2, we've got a
I
1.
saw a 5 in there. I'm pretty impressed. I saw a 5.
That's very impressive. And if you're here and you feel like you're at the top, you're ready for the next level, right? You're looking to see
Fabulous.
how can you break through. So this is really good to see from all of you. Well, yes, you can self-correct, maybe actually 4. There's always room for improvement.
Nice.
It's a really good range to see, and whatever number you landed on, you're definitely not alone. This is one of the biggest challenges in running a pet care business, and we're going to be digging into today. And hopefully, by the end of this session, you're going to have a stronger framework that you can walk away with to help your team perform more effectively. All right. So, the next question I'd love to ask all of you is to drop in the chat a 1, 2, or 3 for how often does execution vary from employee to employee? So you've got some who really know what they're doing it consistently, the execution is spot on, and then others might not be. Where do you land across the board? Often, sometimes, or rarely on a scale of one, numbers 1, 2, 3. So let's see what's coming through inside the chat here. See bunch of ones. Okay, it varies often. A bunch of twos sometimes.
Oh, having new folks. Yeah, Victoria, I hear you on that one. New
Yeah.
folks that are still trying to figure it out. So,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So we have people landing across the board on scale 1, 2, 3. If anyone else wants to drop more numbers, they can in the meantime. But basically, whatever number you're landing on here, it's a very common challenge, right? In terms of having that execution really be consistent across the board, across all of your team members, and having that process documented is important, but it doesn't always mean that it's being applied consistently. We're going to be diving into that and into today's conversation. And we're going to also talk about how we can close that gap. All right. So the last question for everybody in the room before we open up the discussion is, please finish this sentence in the chat. If you could fill in the blanks, better staff training would help our business blank. What opportunities would this open up for your business? What could you do more of? What could you do less of? If you had better staff training in your business, how would it help? I'm very curious what answers you guys come up with, so I'm going to give you a few seconds here. Think about it. Dream a little bit with me. If you had better staff training, I mean, how would you be spending your time? How would your team be spending its time? What kind of progress would you see in your business? Would there be more sales? Would there be more efficiency? Would you be able to optimize your staff and hire more because you have, good managers in place and whatnot? So let's see what answers are coming inside the chat.
mhm.
Okay. Grow, staff confidence, increase revenue, grow, run more efficiently, reduce risk. I really like that. Reduce risk is very important. Grow our client relations, be more professional, better growth and safety, increasing revenue, growing and standing out and increasing profits. See a lot of common themes coming up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, institutional memory, standard of care. Standard of care is so important too. Grow, standing out, providing more consistency, being more efficient, running smoother, reducing risk, being more professional. Absolutely. Eve, what is your takeaway from seeing all of these answers?
Well, that they really understand that having consistency in the workplace affects the bottom line in a multitude of ways, right? If we're more
Mhm.
efficient, then we can lower staff costs. If we're mitigating risk, that's less that we're having to spend on, insurance issues or workman's comp, right? Like, so all of these things truly do affect that bottom number, that revenue number, that take home number, and the amount of money that you have to reinvest in your business. So, oh, 100% how all of that trickles down. And I think, for an outsider would never agree with you, right? The outsider would be like, well, training your staff just means they're well trained. They don't really realize how that has that bigger snowball effect within your business.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I think we're on the perfect note to go ahead, dive in, see if we can teach a dog new tricks, right? And that's what this
Absolutely.
represents. And basically, like use what we just talked about as kind of a baseline, right? Like the self-evaluation. You understand where everyone is at, where you can improve. And yeah, so with that, let's just kick it off. If anyone gets any questions as we go through. I have a couple of questions to ask Eve, to help get us going. But if anyone has any questions as we go through, just drop it inside the Zoom chat. And we're definitely going to be leaving time at the end for live Q&A. So make sure you stick to the end because you never know what's going to come up. And chances are the question that's on your mind is on somebody else's mind too. So please, please, please do drop them inside of the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that I can give Eve the stage and go ahead and put her in the hot seat and ask the very first question. So, are you
Certainly.
ready for me?
I'm ready, I
All right.
think. Can I hold on to my SOPs in case I need to reference them?
You got it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So the first one for for the room I think would be amazing to ask you is many businesses rely heavily on those written SOPs you were just holding for training. Can you explain though why SOPs fall short in ensuring employees actually know how to perform a task correctly?
Absolutely. So I remember when I started in my corporate world and they were like, okay, here, read the manual, and then tomorrow, then you can do some work. And I remember sitting down, reading the manual and doing the head bob, and then having to Google words. I'm like, I don't even know what this word is, or how does it pertain to what it is I'm trying to learn. And my first corporate job was in banking. I was reconciling safes for a big bank conglomerate that had like 52 locations. So I didn't know the terminology. I didn't understand what I was reading and how it actually fit into what I was going to be asked to perform the next day. And so it was kind of pointless. I mean, I was grasping little pieces, but it wasn't preparing me for actually sitting down at my desk, pulling reports and knowing actually what to do, how A gets all the way to Z. I was like, A, is there an M in there? Maybe a U? I wasn't quite sure. Um, so you need these because these things are what protect you from workman's comp issues. They protect you when somebody wants to sue you. You need them. They need to be in writing and they need to be a living, breathing document that you do look at from time to time. So they are super important. How you create these is the hard part. I don't think probably any of us on this webinar were like, ooh, I love SOPs. That's my jam. Let me type it up. No, you're in the pet care industry. Pets are your jam. This is what you want to be doing. Um, so if you don't have SOPs and you're going, oh my God, where do I start? There's a lot of ways to start. And technology has caught up, right? We now have ChatGPT and Clyde and Yolanta. I'm sure you could rattle off like five more, right? Tranual. There's numerous ones that you can do. And I am old school. I used to have a bag phone back in the day, so that's how old I am. And back when I had a bag phone, it came with a manual. Well, now when you get a cell phone, there is no manual. So where do you start? I hired somebody to follow me around for 4 days and they videotaped and they had a microphone and they were recording things and they were going, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why is that important? And then they created my SOPs. So it's a great opportunity for an intern, for a college kid who wants to be in business administration, anything in the business realm to learn how to do this. Even a political science major would be a great place to start. So you have to have them because this is what helps you on the back end. The problem is this is not teaching your staff how to actually run your business and do all the things that you're asking them to do. So if I were to say, I want you to utilize 2 squares of paper towel to pick up a pile of diarrhea, put it in a bag, get all the air out of the bag, and throw it in the dumpster. That's actually in my SOP. And then if I were to say that or have the staff read it and then they go, they're going to be like, oh, okay, take this. So do I use this to clean the poop or do I have the bag? And then take all the air out of it. Squish the bag maybe, but I left out some steps. I left out exactly how to get all the air out. I left out exactly how I want them to use the bag to grab the poop and the paper towel to wipe up the residue. So, in order to really give them the full picture and make them understand it, video. Majority of people learn via video. How many of you have ever gone to YouTube and said, I need a video on how to fix something, right? Almost all of us at some point. That's just how we learn now. It's just so much easier to ask for a video. I needed to clean my water softener. I've never cleaned a water softener in my entire life at 50 years old. And so I just typed in video, how to clean the water softener. And this lovely little YouTube popped up, gave me directions. This is your Bible. The video is actually how you're going to teach them the step-by-step process in real life. And that gets you pretty far. The secondary piece to that is now, did they comprehend it? And I think that's where a lot of us might fall short. We're going to take the staffer in, we're going to show them in a retail space, take the food off, then you put the new food on the bottom, and then you put the old food up on top. So we've shown them, we have it in our SOP, we've shown them, and then tomorrow we're going to be like, hey, so just like I showed you yesterday, go ahead and do it. And then they're going to stand there for a minute and go, well, when I take the food off, do I put it to my left or to my right? Does it matter? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to do it and I'm going to hope that I'm okay with it. Because asking for help, asking for guidance, raising their hand is the scary part. So instead of asking your new hire to raise their hand and be vulnerable when they're trying to show you why it is why you hired them, right? Like they're trying to prove themselves. It's much better than to coach them through it. And that's where that muscle memory piece kind of comes in. Yolanda, have you learned something new where somebody went over the muscle memory theory at all?
No, I think you should share it with the group.
Okay. So back in the day in a gym class, you probably had to play the game telephone. And the telephone game is where I say something to you or I show you something. So I make my new hire staff stand in a line, back, back, front, right? So the person in front of me is facing forward. They can't see. And then we do a little game so I can explain to them how to be vulnerable, how to ask for coaching, and then also show them how things can get misconstrued and then how we bring it back to how it should be. So the first example is, and there's videos out there, by the way. I stole this off of a YouTube person off of Facebook or something, but it was just so perfect. So the first person, you show them. So I'm driving a motorcycle and I rev the engine. And now they turn around and they show the next person. Then they turn around and show the next person, right? So you do it all the way to the end. By the time you get to the end, it's nothing like the first person. And then now we're going to do it again. But this time I'm going to show them. So this time it's a movie scene. Then the person repeats it to me, but we do it together. So instead of me saying, hey, I showed you, now go along, go show somebody else. Now we're going to do it together. The eye up, do the thing, smile. Then I ask them to do it on their own. And then I give them feedback. Okay, that looked great. You can now teach the next person. So now as we're going through person after person after person, I can stop them and go, do you feel like they did it well enough that they can teach the next? No, not exactly. Okay, then we're going to do it again, right? So it's really helping your staff understand that they can raise their hand, that they can say, hey, I don't really understand this completely, and it also teaches you how to give feedback to that next person. And doing all three of those things is what helps to create that competency. Because without that muscle memory of them practicing it with you, then showing you they know how to do it, you're like, well, I'm going on vacation. I hope my store doesn't burn down. And that gets really hard.
Absolutely, especially as when these business owners have to step away from their business to either, for personal reasons or even to attend a big industry event, right? Like Global Pet Expo is coming up next week. And that's something top of mind for a lot of people attending is, is my store going to burn down or my location is going to be okay when I come back to
Correct.
it?
Yes. How many customer complaints am I going to come back to because my staff didn't follow the protocols that we have in place?
Absolutely. So building on what you were just sharing, would it be fair to say that most employees in this industry are visual learners and basically incorporating video and those demonstrations that you suggested into training could improve understanding?
Very much so. Um, I would say, generationally speaking, probably our grandparents could read something, right? They could read a manual and then go and take an engine out of a car because that was there. There wasn't TV and videos and all of this stuff. But now, they're gaming. They're binge watching TV. They're even if they're binge watching like the crime shows, right? They're still processing of, ooh, there was a hair there. Okay, could that have been, right? Like they're using their mental capacity while watching something visually. And that is the trajectory that we're on. Like it or not, is irrelevant. That just is the way that it is now, is that we are learning so much more from a visual perspective. You could certainly have your new hire buddied up with yourself or a supervisor for 60 days, but what's the cost in that? If your supervisor is being paid $20 an hour and your new hire is at $15 an hour, that's $35 an hour. Times that by 80 hours for, like you have to figure each person's going to work 40 hours if they're full time. So by having somebody just read a manual and then trusting that they understand it, you're making the time that it takes to get that person to be productive much longer. Now you're talking 4 to 6 months. By offering videos and then practicing with them and then asking them to practice it back to you, you're shortening that gap by at least 30, if not 90 days. For my Dog Handler Academy, that's the role that we play. They watch the video, they answer the questions, so I know they have some competency. Then we go and they actually practice the things that they just watched the video on. We check it off. And then the next day, they have to go and show us those things back so we can coach them, offer guidance, and then they get a secondary check. So it's always double checking everything as well. Um, so that way, 4 months down the road, when they don't do things properly, and you need to sit down and have that conversation or do a write up, and they say, well, I didn't know that. Well, you took the quiz. We have the sheet of paper. We checked the boxes twice that you were taught and that you had competency on it. Um, if anybody's ever had to pay out unemployment, you know that it just burns you most days. So this is just one of those ways to prove that they have been trained properly and things were um, checked off on. So it is super important. But yeah, visual learners, that is the way that almost 85% of people learn today. So if you take that 80-20 rule, that's the direction to go.
Absolutely. And you mentioned also the investment of time, but what about also the investment of cost, right? Because you just put that dollar amount towards, the manager and the new hire, the compound effect of, basically how much it is costing you to train staff the way that you've always been doing rather than really optimizing and streamlining that process with all of these materials. I mean, there's a lot of wins to go around when you just do the hard work. It's not maybe easy at first, but because you have to sit down and get all of these pieces together. But at the end, you're going to have so much more savings, not just in time, but in cost as well.
It's immeasurable. And then you also are getting the consistency, right? That new hire is hearing the same message from one person. So that was another problem that I saw. prior to having Dog Handler Academy is I would have this person shadow them for 2 days, and then they would go and shadow somebody else. And they're like, oh, well, this person does it this way, and this person does it a little bit different. So which way is right? By having the videos, this is the right way. And there is always a little bit of variation, right? I mean, when I load the dishwasher, I load it a little bit different than the other people in my house. Do the dishes still get washed? Yes. Is it, mandatory that all these things have to be 100% perfect when loading the dishwasher? No. For those things that things have to be perfect, those are the things that you really harp on. But for the most part, there can be a little variation. If you're taking the food off the shelf, does it need to go to the left or to the right while it's just sitting there and you reload? It doesn't matter. But they just need to know that the key thing that does matter is putting the new stock on the bottom and the old stock on the top. When we're training people to work in our dog daycare environment, one of the key factors that they always go, well, I went into the play group to clean up pee. We use rags. And I can't tell you how many times I see the new hires take the cleaner and they spray the pee and then they wipe it with the rag. And I'm like, did the pee need to get sanitized? Like, are we doing something with the pee that it needed to be sanitized? Well, no, but the area needs to be sanitized. Yes, but the pee is what you clean up first, then you sanitize, then you dry. Like there has to be that specific order to it in order for what you're doing to be even remotely effective. Um, so when I notice that things are being missed or, they're not being consistent, then it's a video, then it's a competency piece, and we check some boxes just to make sure. So it's not that you have to make videos on every possible scenario within your business, but really look at the key things that affect your client relations. So we have an entire module on interacting with our clients. We have an entire module on interacting with each other's staff, because that is also a lost art, I think, in this next wave that we're going through with employees, is that interpersonal communication. But those are the key things, is anything that they're missing on a somewhat regular basis, or it's something that is so important and so detrimental that it needs to be perfect. Those are the key things that you want to focus on, creating some sort of video for them to watch it and really understand it.
Awesome. So with that in mind, since we're talking about how can we make this happen, right? Walk me through a little bit of the training progression that you would recommend here, right? Taking the employees from simply reading the SOP to actually building real competency, building on everything that we're just talking about.
Yeah, so when a new hire starts with me in my dog daycare environment, their first day, it's, the silly stuff, right? Like, give me your ID, all that stuff. Then we go for a tour. So then their eyes are kind of bugging out of their head going, wow, this is a lot. I'm like, yep, it's a 15,000 square foot facility with a lot of dogs. Welcome. Um, and then we sit them down and we go over an employee compact. The compact is different than my SOPs, than my employee manual. The compact is really meant to be the down and dirty pieces of what I need to make sure they really understand. What's our call out policy? What is our attire policy? You know, the things that kind of make or break somebody being in my building. Um, like we have the 5 Bs. I don't want to see any boobs, bras, bellies, butt cracks, or boxers. I make sure they know that on their first day. That's a non-negotiable. So we call them the 5 Bs. So we go through this compact, really outlining the nuts and bolts. If you have a problem with the schedule, who do you reach out to? If you have a problem with your paycheck, who do you reach out to? We make sure that they put their emergency contacts in our home base app. We have a form that they fill out. Do you have any allergies like bee stings or peanut butter? I mean, in the dog daycare environment, having a peanut butter allergy is very difficult because we do a lot of callings with peanut butter and peanut butter treats. So we go through that. And then now that we've kind of like, here's the scary stuff. Then we sit them down and we have them watch their first video. Their first video is, how do we take on and off the 12 different types of body harnesses that dogs might walk in our door with? And then how do we greet our clients? They watch 45 minutes of video, 30 to 45 minutes. And then we go back up into the daycare area and we say, okay, looking at our wall of collars and leashes and harnesses, do any of these look familiar that you just saw in the video? Oh, yep, that one, da, da, da. Yep, that's that one. Remember, this is how it goes, okay? All right, what about that one? Does that one look good? Oh, yeah, okay. Why don't you take that one off and show me how it goes on and off? One of the key things in the dog daycare industry is that they make fake dogs. And if you're in retail, you probably have fake dogs there as well, right? They're cute. They're nice to have out and about. So I have $500 worth of fake dogs off of Amazon. Thank you, Melissa and Doug, for making fake dogs for little kids to play with. And so we pull out these fake dogs and we have them actually practice putting on and off these harnesses. And anybody that's ever tried to put on one of these harnesses where you're like, is this the front? Is this the back? And move it around, it's much easier for them to practice on a fake dog and clip it before we move on to the real dog that's wiggling in its thing and you're trying to get the arm in there and it's going every which way. So, paperwork, the nitty gritty, watch a video, let's go practice. Then they can go back down, watch another video, come back up and practice. So, we break it in chunks that are less than an hour of in-person practice and watching a video. If you think of kids that go to school outside of college, by the way, um, their classes are 45 minutes because that's about as much as we can handle before the brain starts to kind of wander off. Think of most TV shows with commercials. The show itself is only about 30 to 45 minutes. So break everything down into those smaller, more digestible chunks. You can't expect your new hire to follow you around all day and be like, okay, I do this. Okay, yep. Okay, okay, take a note. Okay, yep, I do this. Okay, yep, I do this. That's overwhelming. So it needs to be a little bit of training, a little bit of doing, physical movement. Again, creating that muscle memory of physically doing something, a little bit of training, a little bit of physical movement by mixing that up throughout their day. If you can also keep your new hires, have them come in a little bit later and leave a little bit earlier than the rest of the staff. Give them a shorter shift those first few days so that way they can process it all versus feeling overwhelmed. And I will tell you the worst thing that you can do is say to your new hire, do you have any questions? They have no idea what to ask you. You just made them feel really stupid because they're like, I don't know, am I supposed to have a question? So instead of doing that, give them feedback, right? Like have good emotional or good intelligent feedback for them of, okay, so today you learned this and you learned this. How do you feel about that? When we were doing this, did you understand the why? And then they can give you that reasoning behind it. So make sure that you're not just saying any questions because they're going to leave and go, I don't know, this was just strange. And they're not going to have the best vibe on the job.
I hope everybody in the room is taking notes because you're sharing like so many different things that I know when I entered the pet industry, I was actually a dog walker and pet sitter. I wish I had known half of this stuff back then, or somebody had trained me this way. It is so invaluable what you're sharing. So to build on what you just mentioned in terms of those steps, right? So moving on to now when a manager is demonstrating those tasks.
Mm,
And, while training that new employee, what should those next steps look like to make sure that new employee really learns and not just watches how it's done? I know you touched on it earlier, but let's like look at the
yeah.
full picture.
So one of the issues that we always have is laundry. We do 22 loads of laundry a day. It's a lot. We have two washers, two dryers. And if I were to ask my new hire, hey, do you know how to do laundry? Yeah, I know how to do laundry. I have to do my own laundry. Great. Why don't you go do laundry? It's not going to be the right way to do laundry. So we actually have a video that they watch that says, this is how we do laundry. And then after they've watched the video, we have a progression checklist. Like I said, we go over our compact, we watch video, we practice. So when the laundry one comes, then the supervisor will go back with them. Okay, you're going to watch me do it on one of the washing machines, and then you're going to do it on the second washing machine. And then they do the laundry I will tell you, they always go, "Oh, this is gross." Yeah, it's gross. It's dog hair. Might be some food in there, maybe a little poop in there. But you got to make sure that you're taking a paper towel and cleaning out that rim. Otherwise, you're going to clog the system. And if the washing machine filter gets clogged, you could burn out the motor, and now that's $3,000 for a new washing machine. So we always explain the why. Why is it important? And that's the key that your supervisors and managers and yourself really need to work on. In this day and age, a lot of your staff you might get frustrated with. You're gonna be like, they don't have common sense. They're incompetent. They don't get it. Well, they don't get it because their entire lives they've been told this is what time to get up. This is where you're going to school. This is how you're going to study. This is what you need to do, right? They haven't been allowed to figure things out because they've just been told this, and this. There was no why. Why do I have to go to school? Because I said. That's why. By explaining the why, you're allowing them to have some intelligence, some emotional intelligence about the situation. You're allowing them to process it. And that then creates buy-in. So it's, hey, this is why we need to scrape all this out of the little rim. Because if we don't, this could happen and this could happen. And then $3,000 is a big dollar amount. So we go through that the first time we teach them. 45 minutes later, because we know how long it takes to do a load of laundry. So 45 minutes later, we set a timer, we come back. Okay, so do you want me to show you how to do it again? You're giving them the option. A lot of them are going to go, yes, because it's been 45 minutes, right? They might not have processed it all yet. So now we have the opportunity to show again. And then I have two washers. So we show once, they do it the second time. Now, on our little check sheet, we showed them the first time. But if they ask us to show them again or they do it and we have to give feedback, I'm not going to check that second box. Not until I'm confident that they can do it all by themselves without me standing there. So we'll do it again. Another 45 minutes later, we can come back and go, okay, I've showed you twice. Do you feel like you have it or would you like me to show you a third time? And I'm not going to say third time, by the way. I'm just going to say show you again. And now they can do it. I can critique, be like, ooh, make sure that you're really getting those crevices. It's a full scoop in there. Open the dryer. Great job. Lint trap. See how it comes? Every lint trap is slightly different. So now once I'm sure that they actually have figured it out, now I can check the box. And then in 45 minutes later, I can ask them to go do laundry. So that's really that progression that you need to take to make sure that somebody is comprehending it. The one thing I had struggled with, I had a 22-year-old staff member who had no idea how to change the thermostat. I sent him to go change it. I said, hey, it seems a little warm and boarding. Can you adjust the thermostat? Oh, yeah, no problem. Okay. It was like 12 minutes later, and I'm like, where is this kid? I go back there, and he's literally standing there staring at it with his phone, trying to Google how to change the thermostat. And I said, well, you don't know how to change the temperature. He's like, no. And I said, okay, you live in a house with other guys, right? Yes. Who changes the thermostat there? I have no idea, he says. I'm like, okay. So, Ben, you're not allowed to touch it. Yeah, I get you. So I applauded him for trying to Google, right? Like, wow, he took initiative. He wanted to problem solve. The piece that he needed to just be a little bit more vulnerable and go, hey, so I thought I knew what I was doing. Can someone come and help me? That would have been the appropriate step. So I gave him a high five for trying to Google be self-sufficient. We went over how to change the thermostat, and I told him, I said, you better have a conversation with your parents that they kind of missed the ball on this one. They were setting you up for failure, and probably a really big heating HVAC bill from the electric company. A week later, he comes in and he goes, so my mom wants me to apologize to you for never teaching me how to do a thermostat. And we now know where the thermostat is in the house that we rent, and we will now have lower utility bills. So it just goes to show that they might be some self-sufficiency there, But because I just said, hey, do you know how to do this? Yes, I didn't test that he had that core competency. I didn't walk him back there because every thermostat is different. In fact, the house he was living in had the old mercury dial, so he was completely flabbergasted how to adjust that. To where ours is a digital one. You actually had to hit the button to make the screen light up. He hadn't even gotten that far yet. Bless his heart. So that was on me, right? Like I didn't walk through the steps of creating that core competency with him and doing a muscle memory exercise. So lessons learned. When you ask somebody, do you know how to do laundry? Do you know how to change the thermostat? They probably do in their own home, but it doesn't mean they know how to do it to your level of expertise, satisfaction, and how it runs in your facility.
And it doesn't really stop there, right? Because just because they finally show them the first time how to do it right, and then they are able to repeat it back to you correctly,
Yeah.
repetition and coaching is still really important, right? When building that muscle memory and employee training.
100%. When we go to learn how to ride a bike, we start with a tricycle or maybe a big wheel. So we're a little lower to the ground, and then we progress up to a small bike with some training wheels. Then we might get the training wheels off. Then we go to a bigger bike, right? Like you do all these steps before you're riding the mountain bike out in the woods, off road. So you have to think of training your staff to be that same way. Then to bring it all home, the backup piece to all of this is making sure that you're checking in with your training team or your management staff every week for the first 60 days that that new hire is on board. Because even though that we're walking them through this, that, and this, I have found people put on a great show those first couple of weeks, right? Like they're proving to you why you hired them and they're going to be great. And then you start to see who they really are, right? Might be a little up and down, might be a lot of down. Maybe you get surprised and it's a unicorn. Um, but the key piece is that you have to check in with the other people that are working with this person. This is what's going to really help with the culture of your business. And that's the important piece. If somebody says, hey, so I work with this person, the most, this is what I'm seeing. That's great feedback. And then how do you validate it? Do you have cameras that you can check? Are there other people that you can have kind of as a secondary with that opinion? I have was just coaching a client, and two out of the three managers liked somebody, but this other manager did not, and had very specific issues that they had had with them. So then we had to figure out, is this a personality conflict? Is this person really this way? And when these other two managers are around, then they like pretend to actually do their job effectively. So we had to go back and watch some camera feed and really determine what all that looks like.
That's awesome. So, to really kind of wrap this up before we go into live Q&A, I think a good question to ask would be how, doing all these measures to have proper training in place, right? Impact employee confidence and performance, and ultimately staff retention, right? Hiring is such a big problem these days. We don't even want to think about that headache. So how are we going to keep these employees around?
Yeah, no, and that's really it. I mean, you've heard the slogan, right? People don't quit jobs, they quit management. They quit their leadership team. So if I get hired on and I feel incompetent, I don't feel confident in the job, I'm going to hate it. I'm not going to want to be there. But if I know I'm coming in and, okay, yesterday I learned this and this, all right, so today I get to learn this, and I feel confident in how I'm being trained, that I am actually learning something, it changes your mood about the job, even if the job is picking up dog shit, right? Like I'm confident I know how to do it. I'm going to get a compliment that the play yard looks clean because someone is going to give me feedback on that one. That's really the key. That culture that you're creating is also what helps to retain employees. So many times when I'm chatting with other people and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't keep staff. I can't keep staff." Like they work 30, 60 days and then they go. To me, that's a process problem. That's an onboarding issue. Now, the flip side is I hire fast and I fire faster. Within those 2 weeks, when I'm getting feedback from my other supervisors, if I'm hearing not positive things, see you later, Jack. Like it's not worth my energy and effort to keep training you because you've already shown us who you are. But the flip side is you've got, and I love to hire the quiet workers, by the way. So those are the hardest ones to like get that feedback from. Um, but I just find they work really well with the dogs. They don't overcomplicate my life. So getting that feedback from them. But it's really helping that culture by providing step-by-step processes. People can feel confident that what they're doing is right. It's accurate. They don't have to live in fear of someone coming up and going, "Why did you do that? That was dumb." Or, "Oh my God, you just cost us so much money because you did this wrong." Nobody wants to hear that. So by providing that good, solid training, giving that feedback, coaching them along the way, helping to create that muscle memory, it makes that transition so much smoother. Apple actually has a rule. As an executive, you are not allowed to talk at a meeting for the first 3 months that you're hired. They hired them for a reason. They want them to take in everything that the business is. They want them to learn the culture, learn the processes before they start giving feedbacks or you should make this change or you should change that. I think we've all probably hired somebody at some point in time that, their first 3 days with us are like, "Hey, I think you should be doing this in your business." Well, thank you very much for that information that you don't even know what you're talking about, but I appreciate it. Um, it also helps you stop that from happening where you have to kind of put somebody, a little back in their seat because they don't know enough about your business or your culture or your processes to really be offering you that feedback at that point.
That's some amazing insight. So, we have some questions that actually came in through
Fabulous.
chat. But before we get to it, what I'd like to do is I'm going to leave up on the screen because I understand that in case anyone wants to make sure they don't miss this. Okay, so I'm going to leave this on the screen while I ask the questions that came in through the chat. This QR code is just available to live attendees. So if you're here in the room, you have this exclusive opportunity to actually get to experience what working with Eve and her team inside Dog Handler Academy is like by getting the first month free for her online employee training monthly membership. And if you have any questions after today's session, I dropped her email address is right here at the bottom, doghandleracademy@gmail.com. Please engage with Eve and her team because even if you didn't get to ask a question today, we're going to get to the live Q&A in a second, but questions will come up after this training. I know it. And Eve is here to be that, go-to source for anything and everything regarding staff training, especially for dog daycare and boarding. So please lean on her and her team from Dog Handler Academy. Grab the QR code on the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up the questions while I leave this on the screen for you guys that were asked inside the chat. So we had a couple of people who actually wanted to know, like, what is the actual process of getting those videos done, right? Like, what are
Mm.
you actually using to record them, and how would employees access them once they're created?
So you can make this as simple as your cell phone and a YouTube channel. Like truly, you can make it that simple. That is actually how I started. I shot some videos because during COVID, I had to lay off half my staff. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I have to hire 12 people all at once, how in the world am I going to hire them all at the same time, teach them all the same thing, and make sure that I'm consistent? Because I know they're not going to read the manual. So I started shooting with my cell phone. This is how you set up a suite for a dog. This is where the water bowl goes. This is how we always make sure we flip up the corunda bed. And I sent them off to a couple dog daycare friends, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this and putting it on a YouTube channel. And they were like, oh my gosh, can I pay you a subscription to that? And I was like, why, yes, you can. And there is how Dog Handler Academy came to be. So you can make it that simple. Otherwise, I use Access Alley. And I have a professional videographer that actually comes in. We spend 3 days shooting. A lot of what I shoot, though, for the dog daycare world is in my daycare, and we're shooting dogs interacting with each other. Like, what's a dog muzzle punching? So we have to capture all these moments literally live and do that. So that does get to be a little bit more complicated, but if it's simple stuff like my washing machine scenario, I just shot that with my phone and we popped it onto our platform. And it's just a mandatory that all my staff watch it. So you can make this as complex or as easy as you would like it to be.
And the easier the better because then it actually would get done, right?
100%. My daughter, who's now 14, for the last 4 years, for the simple ones, I have her filming as I am teaching it. I had her film me giving instructions on how to do an interview for people who want to work in our facility. So now my supervisors and managers can watch that video as a reminder and then go and interview potential new staff.
Got it, got it. So with the videos in place, on the flip side, what do you recommend creating SOPs in?
Well, I told you how I did it. So it cost me about $4,000 to have this lovely lady follow me and my staff, by the way. I had her follow my staff around for 4 days and she wrote them up. Scribe has been a one that several of my clients have utilized, where you're just voicing it in there. The key thing to really think about, and this is what I recommend to people, sit and close your eyes and then literally talk through step by step by step because you need to visualize each little intricate piece to make sure that you have it thoroughly done. And Yolanta might be able to even find us somebody that can help
Mhm.
within the PIN network.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to get into that in just a second before we all wrap up here. I did want to make sure to ask, we had another question in the chat, and it's a little bit lengthy, so I'm going to read it out.
Sure.
What do you do to make staff who are good in the run and you trust them, but like to lie and have their phone in the run despite it being against policy? When I catch them, he obliges, but I can't be there 24/7, and my other staff are not comfortable taking his phone away from him. Firing is just too expensive in my state. That is a tough one.
It is. So the key thing is documentation, because at some point you're going to have to fire him. I mean, his morals and ethics just do not align with your culture, right? Like that's the reality of it. And or if he gets bit and he's got his phone on him, right? He wasn't paying attention and he did something wrong or he created a dog scuffle. So write up, write up, write up each time. If you don't already have a policy that so many write-ups on the same topic is a termination, create that and have everybody sign off on it. But yeah, document all of those. If and also if you have cameras that you can go back and just take a picture, a screenshot of him violating that policy, that is where you get yourself out of having to pay unemployment. And I will tell you, in 13 years, knock on wood, that has been the way that I've handled it. Document, document, document. Short term, how do you handle it? Every time he's going to go into a run, you have a basket, and that is where phones go. Phones go in there, then you go and you do your job. When you're done with your job, then you can take your phone back. Whether you want to just do an open basket with chargers so that way they can charge their phone while they're doing their job, or there are actually on Amazon cell phone lock boxes that you can do. And I do know some facilities that have had to do that. That's just what you implement. Um, and now I'll give you my little trick. So I use Homebase for my staff clocking in and out in chat groups. And we have intern Becky. So when staff member A tells me that staff member B is on their phone in the run, but staff member A doesn't want to get in trouble, I just tell them, thank you for that information. I'm going to have intern Becky double check the cameras and then we'll deal with it. And then when I go talk to staff member B, I say, hey, intern Becky was doing an audit and watching cameras, and this is what we saw. So this allows your staff members to feel comfortable coming to you because you are always going to check with intern Becky, who doesn't exist, but they think exists. And then intern Becky is the person who catches everybody doing the naughty things that then you can write up.
Right, right. It's like that trick where anyone who wanted to look important enough, you've heard this story, I'm sure, would say, email my assistant. They'll get back to you.
Correct.
They'll set it up. That assistant was the same person, right? Didn't really
Correct.
exist. Same trick applies in the book, right?
Yeah.
We did have
Yeah.
one last question that came through that kind of built on that, and I want to make
Sure.
sure that we wrap up on time. We just have a moment left. With everyone following SOPs, right? Do all staff hold each other accountable?
Yeah, and that's where utilizing that intern Becky is very helpful. Occasionally, if I just see that things are not, um, they're cutting corners, right? Like I know that these two sweets, they look clean, but I know that they weren't actually clean. Like I can see some hair and some residue. So then I just go ahead and say, hey, so intern Becky was doing her audit of the cameras, and I know you worked last night and these weren't cleaned properly. So I also just use intern Becky. It gets to the point where everybody hates intern Becky, but it's fine. Everybody can hate intern Becky. It doesn't matter. I actually just had to change intern Becky to intern Zoe because intern Becky had been with us for 5 years, so she should have graduated by now. So intern Zoe is now in charge of things. But that's really the key. The key is your staff need to feel comfortable coming to you, and also that when they come to you, you don't have to throw them under the bus, right? That you can, I always say whenever somebody says something, I'll be like, we'll verify that with intern Becky, but thank you for letting me know. Do you know about what time so they can check cameras? And that allows the staff to feel comfortable saying things to me because they know they're not the ones that are getting in trouble. Like it's not going to create animosity between each other. So the faster that you implement it, and then the key is to implement it and then utilize it, right? Like constantly be like, well, intern Becky, blah, 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 intern Becky, blah, 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 intern Becky, blah, blah, blah. So then it really makes it so people know that intern Becky can be the fall guy.
There you go. That is a wonderful way, a wonderful note to end on. I'm sure we're all gonna be hearing a lot about intern Becky's throughout the pet industry now. Um,
Right.
Before we wrap up today, I just wanted to invite everybody to go ahead, if you enjoyed today's live discussion, get on our wait list because we are going to be announcing the next Pet Industry Network Growth Summit very, very, very soon. You don't want to miss the announcement. You're going to get first dibs. We're actually going to be having a Global Pet Expo Week special. So you want to make sure if you're not already signed up, just drop the link inside the chat. I also want to thank Eve from Dog Handler Academies for kindly, generously giving her time, to have this live discussion with the room. And, just, if I could see some snaps, some cheers, some applause inside the chat, some emojis, some thanks of gratitude, because I think that you're just such a wealth of expertise in everything that you just shared. You have endless examples and case studies to share with people. Some more questions came in through the chat. I encourage for everyone who wants to, learn more about how they can optimize their staff training through like examples like you've shared today. Go ahead, grab that link that I shared in the chat for Dog Handlers Academy monthly membership. Okay. This is a wonderful opportunity to get a feel for what it's like to get this kind of support in your business and coaching and access to education and resources and a whole team who has all of this laid out. I mean, literally, you have so many answers to a lot of these questions that are just, I'm sure they're applicable to so many more people in the room. So, again, thank you so much, Eve, for being with us. And thank you all in the audience for tuning in live for this session of the Pet Industry Network live webinars. Thank you again, everyone.
Absolutely. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share it. If we didn't get to questions, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm always trying to share additional information as I find it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, with that, thank you once again, everybody. I hope you all have safe travels if you're going to Orlando next week for Global Pet Expo, or if you're going to Clicker Pet Expo here in New York. And we hope to see you at another pet industry event, either live in person or here again in the Zoom room virtually. Looking forward to hosting you again very, very soon. Thank you all. And thank you, Eve, so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care, everybody.